Hey, Drivetribe, Migz here, and I'm with Joe and Karen Minchelli.
You got it.
That's the hardest part of the interview. Now we can continue. So you guys have a 1920 Model T Ford Speedster.
Yes, sir. Number 5 race car.
Really? How fast does it go?
She'll do approximately 60 to 70 miles an hour all day long.
That's fast for 1920, isn't it?
Pretty quick. She'll get on highway speeds and probably get speeding tickets, which I wouldn't want to explain to a judge how I got them in a 1920 race car.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, what do you have, like airbag or?
No, just a big windbag.
Oh, wow, okay.
But the reason why this car is capable of going at such highway speeds is because she has something very special inside the car, and that's called a Warfel secondary gearbox.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your spouse.
That too. Yes, absolutely. If not for anything, that is the most important thing inside the car, along with the Warfel secondary gearbox.
Oh, should we backtrack this video? I don't know. Oh, great. So how long have you owned this vehicle?
Approximately 5 years now. We started out by finding her on the internet. She was just prior to that discovered in a barn in Leesburg, Virginia, actually. Okay. She was in a chicken farmer's barn for many years, and come to find out, prior to that, she was actually raced in California in what they call the Santa Clara endurance races. Okay. They were 250-mile races that ran through the countryside, very exciting races. Of course, the car had to take all her tools that were in this box, and it also had to take the tires and whatnot and maps to navigate through the hills of California.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so what do you do? I'm not going to interview you. She doesn't want me to interview her. That's fine.
She tells me what to do. That's her job. She's the mechanician. So anything that goes on over there is important for me over here.
Okay.
So if she says turn left, turn right.
Yeah, you're a navigator.
Yeah,
that's very important.
Basically, they call them mechanicians.
Everybody's important.
Like World Rally Championship kind of thing.
Pretty much. We don't race her anymore. We did have the opportunity, I should say, about a year and a half ago to bring her to Indianapolis, which was the first time the car ever raced there. It was an exhibition race. They brought 15 race cars that would qualify as highway speeds that were pre-1920. So we were the newest of them. 4 of them actually raced in the inaugural 1911 Indy 500. It was pretty interesting. They averaged speeds anywhere between 80 and 100 miles an hour. Okay. So Bobby Unser, 2-time, Indy 500 world champion. I had to I took him for a ride, which was really a lot of fun. So had a great time, but the car did really well.
Great. All right, so let's take a look at the car.
All right, like I said before, some of the most interesting things about the car to get up to those racing speeds was the Warfel secondary gearbox. That was, I almost said beer box. Sorry about that. Gearbox.
That's what this is, right?
It's the little kegmeister that you tow behind now.
Right. Like you see on the ski slopes, right?
That's it.
St. Bernard.
Yep, exactly what it is. But that gearbox is really why this car is capable of handling up those highway speeds. The big thing about it is it's also connected to the transmission, which gives you 2 more gears, so it's almost like a 5-speed. With doing that at those speeds, you also have to remember you need to be able to stop this car. So one of the greatest things this car has also is a set of Rocky Mountain brakes that are just to your right, and that is basically the earliest renditions of drum brakes. So it's one big shoe that goes around a drum. And the reason why that's so important is because before that, they strictly had a transmission brake, and it's in a wet transmission, so they weren't really effective at those higher speeds, where this is really effective right now. The other thing this car has, which is really, really neat, is this predates, at 1920, oil pumps and fuel pumps. The oil pump system in a specific engine is a Model T engine, and it was a splash and cup system, which was okay for cars that really only had top speeds of 30, 40 miles an hour, but in this case we had much higher speeds. So what it would be is where when you pump right here, it would actually send pressure behind this tank, which holds about 1.5 quarts of oil. And what that does is it actually feeds through these copper lines and goes all the way up to that front bearing. And the front bearing was basically the Achilles heel to this car when it was ascending going up hills. Now, the big thing about it is also it's replenishing the amount of consumption of oil that the car would burn during the course of about a 250-mile race. So in that being said, it's not only satisfying that front bearing, it's replenishing the consumption of oil. The other one is actually, which is the pump back here, it's actually pressurizing that kegmeister. I mean, fuel tank back there. And that fuel tank is the reason why that would have to be pressurized is basically when it came out of the factory, not in this configuration, but more of a stock Model T, they were gravity feed. early on, this was probably taken down and made into this race car, is what you see right here. And this guy raced this car all over California. So he would be ascending up these big hills and needed something a little bit better than gravity feed, where if you pressurize that gas tank, you don't have to worry about going up those big hills. Those are some of the neat features about it, but one of the other things we decided to do on it, which really wasn't the original application, was it was a thermosiphoning system. So to keep the engine cool, the more it actually heated up, the more it would circulate the water until it overheated. What we wanted to do was have the car a little bit more bulletproof. So what we did was we bought one of these early 1920s or late 1920s water pump. So that being said, this is the earliest renditions of water pumps back then for Model Ts, and they segued over into the Model As after that. And this keeps the car much more cooler and efficient that you would want to have at slower speeds, if not more medium speeds. At highway speeds, you can pretty much get enough air going through. And the way you can judge the speeds, or I should say the cooling, is actually this motometer.
Let's go around that.
The motometer, the motometer actually has a small little mercury line. Now, if I spin this around for you, okay, you'd be able to see my view of it. And that mercury goes up into that little circle, and that's about the operating temperature for the car, which is unique in its own right because that's actually how you can tell the temperature of the water. So you just got to keep an eye on that. It's kind of pretty simple. When you look over here, this is actually the exhaust pipe. It's a 3-inch open header pipe. Now, having a 3-inch open header pipe, the interesting thing about it is you need to dump a lot of fuel because they were designed, these engines, to have back pressure, and they came with other carburetors. This carburetor right here is a Holley carburetor, and any gearhead knows Holley carburetors are probably some of the best carburetors you can get even to date, and that's set up for having to dump more fuel for this size pipe in it. That's pretty much it. I mean, the car is basically one of those types of things. It's got an old Stewart speedometer, so you're looking at early 1900s technology right there as a speedometer. Same with the fire extinguisher, and that's pretty much it. So we currently, at this point, more, if not for anything, do not race the car anymore. We're interested in bringing her to shows and showing her to the public as we do. We've done about 100 shows in the past 4 years, and here we are at this beautiful, luxurious home out here in Rhode Island at the Audrain Concours d'Elegance, and privileged to be here.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today and showing us your car.
Well,
Both
thank you.
wonderful. I mean, you said way too much today.